Okay, I had I had the most awesome OBE VR lucid dreams this morning, like 2 of them. I think they were separate. Maybe they weren't separate, but I think they were separate OBE VR lucid dreams. And oh my god, it was such a blast. And well, funny thing is, I was asking the aliens to take me flying and stuff, you know, astral traveling in the air, flying, and they gave me this. And this same scene, they've given me many times before. Maybe not exactly, but very similar, where me and like my sister, it was many years ago, they gave me this almost same, you know, scene where I was at Whitewater and swimming in the wave pool, but the scenario, it was nothing like in real life. And so this okay, so the first scenario, okay, I literally was swimming. Okay, it was just me and my sister, and we went to Whitewater, basically, in Branson. And in the scenario, I'm trying to remember, my sister had went off. She didn't swim with me. I think she just went off to either meet friends or went shopping or whatever. And she was going to come back for me later after I got done swimming. And so I basically swam like by myself. But there was about you know, like maybe 10, 15 other people in the wave pool. And it was a trip, man. It was so real. I mean, it was like virtual reality, but it was still, you know, the whole scenario, it didn't feel like 3D. It felt like a different dimension. That's why I'm calling it lucid dreaming. And, yeah, and like, I swam literally for about an hour, and then I got tired, and then by that time, my sister had came for me, and I was already in the sandy area. I was in like a sandy area, and at one point when I was done swimming, I went back out there to swim. But at one point when I was done swimming, I remember like a stranger woman was sitting there in the sand on her towel, and I decided to swim barefoot instead of with my socks. So I threw both pairs of socks, these gray socks I had on, I threw them over on the sand, and they kind of landed near her. But I gotta talk about the swimming part, because it was like a trip, man. And I literally, I mean, for about an hour, literally an hour under the scenario, I was swimming, and it was like such a blast. And this is what was a trip. Okay, so when the waves were going on. Okay, hold on, Cesar. So when the waves were going on, okay, it was 8 feet deep. It went all the way up to probably about the shallow part where the sand was. That was probably about 2 feet. God dang it! I gotta go get him. He's gonna go eat that food. Stacey, I'm gonna feed you in a minute, but it's not time yet. Come on, baby. Yeah, it went all the way from like 3 feet, or maybe 2 feet, and then all the way against the wall. And yeah, in real life, you know, there's a wall there at the Whitewater. There's a wall, and that is the deepest part. So in the scenario, it was very similar. So that's why I was swimming, because I wanted to swim where it was over my head. And actually, in real life, that pool, it goes to 8 feet deep. As far as I remember, it goes to 8 feet deep. And so like the shallow part was all the way, you know, like when you got into the water, 3 feet, and it went all the way up to 8 feet near the wall. And so I kept swimming, you know, near the wall, because that was the deepest part. And the funny thing was, I mean, I literally swam for like an hour until I tired myself out. And but the funny thing is, I kept like, this is where the astral travel part kind of kicks in, because the alien was trying to answer my call, so they gave me the scenario. And so when the waves were going on, I was flapping when I was swimming in the water, it was under my head. I mean, it was over my head, the water. I started swimming like up and down with my arms, almost like I was about to, fly straight up. And the alien had given me this same kind of scenario before. And that one scenario I titled "To the Warehouse," and a total blast. And the alien placed me in the warehouse, and I started flapping my wings up and down, and I astral traveled all the way up to the very, very high ceiling in this commercial warehouse building, and then I started flying around up towards the ceiling. He gave me this scenario before, and so I started moving my arms like up and down when I was swimming, like up and down, and with the waves, when the waves were kind of going up and down, I waited till they kind of went up, and so I started flapping my arms, and then I shot straight up in the air. And this went on for an hour. I shot straight up in the air, out of the water. And then when I landed back, okay, this is the weird part. When I landed back in the water, I went at least 20 feet deep. I literally went at least 20 feet deep. And then I was like, wow. And I would hit the bottom, like my feet would touch the bottom of the pool, which was, it seemed to be, like concrete or something like that. And then I was just like, I was holding my breath, and I was just like, wow, I can hold my breath all the way from this bottom all the way up to, way up there, 20 feet deep or 24 feet deep or whatever. And I never had a problem holding my breath. This went on, like I say, for like an hour. I mean, I was just swimming. And then, like I say, I shot up in the air many, many, many times. And, but as I came down and hit the water, like I say, I went down probably 20, 30 feet deep. It wasn't 8 feet deep at that point. You know what I'm saying? It was 20, 24 feet deep. And, okay, and I was just baffled by the fact that, okay, here I am, I'm at the bottom of the pool, and I'm looking up, and there's at least, 24 more feet of water. I gotta hold my breath all the way, and, tread water, up to the top of the surface of the water. But I never had a problem. I never had a problem holding my breath. It wasn't hard for me at all. And then, there was one part of the scenario where I was swimming around, and the pool, the waves had stopped, and then I couldn't understand, and I started swimming and stuff, and then I couldn't understand, why I couldn't shoot up in the air anymore. And somebody told me, I can't remember if it was my sister or somebody else. And at that time, I think I had swam back to the surface, to the area where the sand was, and where you could, sit down on the towels and stuff. And that's where somebody said, oh, well, the waves had stopped, because they, in real life, they do that. They turn off the wave pool for like 20 minutes, and then they turn it back on again. And then they turn it off, and then they turn it back on again, because they want to make sure nobody drowned. And in this scenario, this is a trip. I can't believe the aliens, this is a trip. Because I hadn't been to whitewater since I was 26 years old. And it's just funny that they went back 20-something years in my brain. Because I had not, really, I hadn't been thinking about, whitewater and the pool and the 8 feet deep and all that in many, many, many years. And so then, I swam back out there, and then I started doing it again, like shooting up in the air. With the waves. When the waves would come, I would shoot up in the air, flap my wings in the water and shoot up in the air. And then, I came back down, but when I came back down in the water, I went at least 20, 30 feet deep. And the funny thing is, okay, there was another part of the scenario as I was swimming. Okay, so I shot up in the air. This is the other part of the scenario. I shot up in the air, and I came back down in the water. And, because, and I shot up in the air, the higher you are and you fall in water, the deeper you're going to go. The higher you are, the deeper you're going to go. I mean, that's just common sense. So, but when I shot up in the air, I probably shot up about the same distance. I would say more, like maybe 30, 40 feet. And like I say, and then when I landed back in the water, I went back, deep, all the way to the bottom, probably 20, 30 feet deep. And, okay, like I say, here's the other part of the scenario. It's hilarious. Okay, so this happened again was I shot up and then I landed in the water and, landed at the bottom of the water and my feet, was on the ground. And I started holding my breath. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe I can hold my breath this long, And then something told me, it must have been the alien, must have telepathically told me, hey, you can breathe underwater. You don't have to hold your breath. And I was just like, okay. So then I just started breathing just fine underwater. And this is not the first time they've given me, it was around 2010, 2011. They gave me this virtual reality, that was more of a virtual reality scenario where it didn't feel like a lucid dream, where I was underwater and I was swimming underwater and I was able to breathe just fine. This is not the first time they've done this. And I was just able to breathe and I was just like, wow. Well, the aliens, they probably can breathe underwater, because they're in a different dimension and everything. And, okay, so then, but I literally, there wasn't any haphazard, fuck ups, like in the scenario, or any blurps or anything. I literally swam, constantly for about an hour, and I tired myself out. I got tired after about an hour, and I was ready to go home. So then, finally, I went back to not the surface, the where the sand was and the towels, and my sister was there to meet me, and I told her, I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go home, I'm tired, that tired me out, swimming 45 minutes to an hour, that tired me out. And like I say, my sister went off and went shopping or something, and then, we were ready to go home, and that was the end of the scenario. That other scenario I had a long, long time ago, which I also was swimming in this, the wave pool at Whitewater. They've given me even more than two similar. That went off into another. I was like in the whole theme park, and I was walking around the theme park, but it almost seemed like that other scenario. Like I say, that was many years ago. But the other scenario, after I went swimming in the pool, it wasn't that good of a scenario. At least the pool part, where I was swimming. That other scenario wasn't that fun or that great. But it went off into where I was literally walking around the park, and where there were, shops and stuff like that I went into and blah, 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 blah. But this scenario, it literally was just swimming in the wave pool. But the funny thing is, when I was swimming in the wave pool, it didn't really, it seemed more like, more of an, okay, this is a good way to explain it. It did seem more, even though it wasn't, it seemed more like a natural body of water as opposed to like a total, a man-made body of water. Even though it was a man-made body of water, but it didn't really seem like that in my scenario. It seemed more like a man-made, a natural body of water. So that part was kind of funny. But it was a trip. It was a blast. It was just crazy insane. Just totally crazy insane. It was so like virtual reality and everything. But the thing is, and like today, I really want to like fucking go swimming, But now, I'm allergic to like everything. And like the Y, they don't over chlorinate the water. But of course now, my nose has gotten more sensitive and blah, 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 blah. It may smell really strong to me now. But back then when I went swimming, 2014 or earlier, my nose was still pretty sensitive back then, but they don't over chlorinate the water. But, so I don't know, maybe I could do okay swimming, but now I'm afraid to swim in a pool with a lot of bleach and chemicals, because if I swallow the water and shit, I'm afraid it's going to make me sick, or make me react, just as though I've eaten, corn, rice, wheat, whatever, or wax, petroleum, whatever. And so I don't know, man, I'm trying to figure out how I could go swimming. I guess maybe I'm just gonna have to find a lake or something. And I know there's plenty around here. I'm just trying to figure out in the city though, where can you swim? I don't think you can swim at Springfield Lake. I don't think you can swim at Fellows Lake either. So I think I'd have to go to, like, I don't know, man. I mean, I know you can swim at like maybe rivers. I don't want to swim at no river where there's fucking currents and shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, I want to swim like so bad, but like now since I became allergic to everything, like I don't know if I want to go, swimming, in the pool like at the Y or whatever. But man, I'll tell you one thing. Oh my God, when I lived in Austin, Texas, Brenda and me, we went to the 24-hour fitness center there and swam in the pool, and it was like, oh my God. And of course, it was indoor pool, so there wasn't any sun to kill the chemicals. And oh my God, I'll tell you, man, how toxic that was. Yeah, I mean, you should have seen and smelled how horrid, how much chemicals they put in that water. I mean, and as far as I remember, the water was literally slimy because there was because if you touch bleach, it's slimy. Like if you put 50% bleach and 50% water, it's slimy if you touch it because it's just so much chemicals. And I mean, the fumes, it was just so horrid. It's a wonder I didn't get sick. But back then, I wasn't real sensitive to chemicals and shit. But man, I feel so sorry for anybody that went in, swam in the pool that had, problems or whatever, health problems or whatever. But I mean, that was so toxic. I mean, you should have seen how chlorinated that water was. It was just horrid. That was around 2006 or 2007. But like I say, and that's why I know, when I swam in the pool, and it's indoors too. At the Y, it's definitely, they do not overdo the chemicals. Well, now they probably fucking are because, oh yeah, I never fucking swim in there now, today, never, no, I forgot. Not after this COVID fake bullshit. Definitely not. So I'm gonna have to go to probably, I don't know. I'm just gonna have to build my own pool with salt water, and then I'll swim in my own damn pool. Okay, but anyway, yeah, so, but that was like such a blast. The pool scenario. And like I say, this whole scenario is virtual reality, but it felt like a different dimension. That's my definition of lucid dream. If it feels like you're in 3D, then that's just virtual reality. Okay, but then, I had this other scenario where it was a blast too. Except I wasn't swimming or anything. Okay, yeah, so, so the other scenario, yeah, this was a trip too. Like, I don't know how the aliens come up with all this, but it's funny. Well, I know, I went to the bookstore a few weeks ago, and then my sister was like, well, I asked Tim to come in here, Tim. And I was like, well, is Tim coming, or has he been in here yet? Since COVID or whatever? And I don't think he has, this other guy that goes to Barnes & Noble. But, so anyway, so I did have that name, on the brain a couple weeks ago or whatever. So, but I wonder, can you, yeah, because like if I buy another house, I mean, can't you still just get an above ground pool? I mean, just as long as it's at least, I still want it to be over my head though. It's still gonna have to be a little over 6 feet deep. But you can make that salt water, couldn't you? Probably. Like you wouldn't have to build an in-ground pool. I mean, and that would be a lot more expensive, doing it in-ground. But, because it would have to be round enough and big enough where I could actually swim, you know what I mean? Do laps and shit. But, yeah, so, I mean, it's, yeah, I don't know how that works with the salt water. Like, what kind of salt do they use? Better not be a chemical salt. Okay, well, anyway, so, but yeah, I mean, it's very possible. Like, you wouldn't even have to build an in-ground pool, but it'd still need to be, round enough and deep enough where you could do some good swimming. Okay, so the second OBE VR lucid dream um, it was still virtual reality, even though I didn't get to smell anything or taste anything. Um, okay, my cat's meowing, but it's almost time to feed him. Okay, I'll feed you here in a minute. Okay, so it started off, I was at Tim's house. And this scenario went on for a long time. I was in his house. I never left his house. But some of the details are still part of the scenario, except they weren't reenacted in the scenario. So, like, so we were walking around. I was walking around Tim's house. And Tim, once upon a time, was wanting to marry my sister. But he was saying my sister, like, it was too hard to get along with, and she didn't like this or she didn't like that. And I was just over there hanging out as a friend. I mean, we walked around forever and ever. He showed me his house forever and ever and ever. And in the scenario, I had been in his house before in real life, but in the scenario, it was much nicer. It was bigger and it was much nicer. Because, well, in real life, his house isn't bad or anything, but his house is a little bit older in real life. But in the scenario, it was pretty big. Kitchen was like as big as my house, but maybe a little bit bigger. It wasn't set up anything like this. But anyway, it was definitely nicer and a little bigger in the scenario. And we mainly walked around the big old kitchen that just kind of was open, and then it just kind of led into the dining room, was all open space. And we just like went walking around the house. He was showing me his house. Blah, 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 blah. And he was just telling me, like, about my sister and stuff. And then we actually got married. So we got married. But like I say, that part wasn't reenacted. So then, I went back to his house, basically, even though I never left the house. I went back to his house, and we were, like, married. And still, again, we were talking. We were walking around the house. And I was thinking in my head, like, I can't believe I got married. And he worked for 3M. He does it in real life, but in the scenario, he worked for 3M. And he made over $200,000 a year. And so I was like walking around and I'm thinking, I can't believe I got married. And I was thinking like, wow, when he dies, I'm going to get all that money, because we're married now. But I didn't really care for it, I didn't really want it or whatever, because I had my own money, you know what I'm saying? And, but I just remember thinking, I was like, wow, now that I'm married, I'm going to get all of his money and everything. And, okay, so, now in real life, he didn't really make $200,000 a year, and he did not work for 3M. But now I don't know why the aliens came up with, a little over 200,000. I don't know why they came up with that figure. But the 3M, I was just talking to my neighbor a few days ago outside, and he did work for like an animal feed store, but I knew he worked for 3M, and he told me again that he worked for 3M still, but yeah, he works for 3M, and because he would tell me he has to wear a respirator and blah 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 blah, but yeah, so the aliens put that in here because I had been talking to my neighbor, and so they put that detail in the scenario because he works for 3M. But in the scenario, Tim worked for 3M. And I'm trying to think, as far as I remember, was he retired already? I can't remember, but I know in the scenario, he was, it seemed like he was about to be retired. And in the scenario, he was like the same age that he is now. Like, I think he's like, I think he may be close to 67. But in the scenario, he was about that age, 65 to 67. And, I've only been talking 24 minutes. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, so, yeah, okay, and so then, but I was just thinking all this, and we got along really well and everything, and we were just, like, in real life, he would not be, anybody to get along with. But, in the scenario, and the aliens, I don't know how the hell they do this, but, like, they do this a lot, like they'll put you with somebody, like, just friend-wise, or romantic or whatever, and it's nobody that you would ever be with in real life or whatever. And in the scenario, it's like you feel so close, you feel such love, and it's so bizarre. And, but yeah, in the scenario, he was like such a nice guy, and, and everything. And, so At one point, he started to cook lunch or dinner, or it seemed like more of a late lunch. And he set the table and everything. And as far as I remember, I helped him set the table. And at one point, like this girl came over, and I think it was like the cousin or a cousin or a niece or something of his. And she was like young, like maybe 9 years old. And I remember her coming over to visit. And then at one point he was like, well, okay, she stayed long enough, so now she needs to leave and blah, 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 blah. But she came over to eat lunch with us. And I think the aliens put that girl in here because I was watching Downton Abbey, and then that like little flaky 18-year-old came into the scene. So that's why the aliens copied off of that. And so anyway, but she finally, I don't know, maybe she was a little older, like 11 or 12, but she finally left the scene and everything. She left and went out the door. And but like I say, this whole scenario, as we were walking around and everything, and we did finally sit down and eat lunch and everything, it probably lasted, I don't know, 5-6 hours. And, well, maybe longer in non-3D time. And, okay, so the last part of this scenario, okay, I told you about the 3M part, the money part, we got married. Okay, that's why it's all fresh in my head, because I just had these two experiences this morning. And, okay, so the last part of the scenario is the girl left the scene, and then it was just me and him again, and we started walking around. Now, in the scene, it was never, said, like, what I did, what happened to my house, and blah, 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 blah. That was never, like a part of the scenario. But, so in the scenario, this is funny. The last part of the scenario, okay, he showed me his bedroom. Well, actually, it was my bedroom, too, because we were married at that point. He showed me, he took me to, he's like, let's go look at this, big bedroom that I have, or whatever. And I looked in there, and because he said he was, oh yeah, I think he wanted me to, he was telling me that, like, I had to go or to go in the living room or something like that, because he wanted to go watch his dancing show. And that's kind of funny, because in real life, I could never see him watching a dancing show. And so he's like, oh, my dancing show is about to come on. And so apparently he was kind of like, I don't know, like into art and stuff in the scenario. So that part was kind of funny. And but as far as I remember, like he was telling me, okay, well, I'm gonna have to, like he wanted me to go in the other room and sit down or whatever, because he wanted to, he wanted it to be all quiet and stuff when he watched his dancing show in that bedroom. When I looked at the bedroom, there was a TV, but there wasn't much in the bedroom at all. But in front of the bedroom, this was so weird. In front of the TV was this odd yellow colored metal looking gadget. It was like, I don't know what the hell it was. It was odd shaped, and it was like 8 feet tall. It was like this metal thing, and it was like dark. It was like this odd yellow color. And when I was looking at it, it was in front of the TV, so to speak. But he was, I guess it was going to move it, when he actually watched his dancing show. And the yellow, the odd yellow color, I noticed immediately, and I was just like, wow, that's a neat yellow color. It was kind of dark yellow. But anyway, it was some kind of weird gadget that helped him like dance or something. It was so weird, because like in real life, he would not be dancing. And like a pole that you would see like at a strip club or something, but it was nothing like that. But it was so weird. The aliens, they have a funny sense of humor. But I knew that that's what it was, some kind of gadget to help him dance or whatever, or to lean on or something. And that was kind of like 4 or 5 feet in front of the TV. But I don't remember seeing any seats or anything like that, chairs or anything, so I don't know. I guess he was just going to stand there and watch his dancing show. But, oh yeah, so basically that was the end of the scenario. And the reason why I think the aliens, oh yeah, and that bedroom was pretty big, and as far as I remember, the floor was hardwood floor. It was not carpet, it was definitely hardwood floor, and that bedroom was pretty damn big. But he only took me into that one bedroom, which of course was my bedroom now, because we were married. And, but the reason why the aliens put that dance part in the scenario was because I had just was flipping the channels last night, and I saw, that dance show was on. And I don't watch that show, but I turned it over. I normally watch Create TV. But yeah, so that's why the aliens put that in there. But both these scenarios were like a trip and a blast, especially the swimming one. Thanks for listening.